What happens when a prince walks into one of television's most respected interview chairs and turns a simple conversation into an absolute disaster? In just 37 seconds of one single comment, Prince Harry would go from composed royal to explosive guest, creating a moment so shocking that Diana Sawyer herself would have to make a decision no host ever wants to make. This is the story of how one interview went from professional to personal, from civil to chaotic, and how one of the most famous faces in the world found himself being shown the door on live television. The studio lights were bright that evening. Diana Sawyer sat across from Prince Harry, her notes carefully arranged, her demeanor calm and collected. This was supposed to be a thoughtful conversation, a chance for Harry to share his perspective, to talk about his life, his choices, his journey. The audience was packed. Cameras were rolling. Everything seemed perfectly set for a meaningful exchange. Diana opened with a warm smile. "Thank you so much for being here. I know this has been a challenging time, and I appreciate you sitting down with us." Harry nodded, settling into his chair. "Of course. Happy to be here." The first few questions were standard. Diana asked about his recent projects, his charitable work, the causes he cared about. Harry answered smoothly, even charmingly. He spoke about wanting to make a difference, about using his platform for good. The audience seemed engaged. Everything was going exactly as planned. Then, Diana shifted gears. "I want to ask you about some of the comments you've made recently about your family. There's been quite a bit of public interest, as you know." Harry's expression changed slightly. Not much, but enough to notice. "Right. Well, I think I've been pretty clear about where I stand." "You have," Diana agreed, keeping her tone even. "But some people feel that certain statements have been, perhaps, inconsistent. Can you help us understand?" "Inconsistent?" Harry leaned forward, his voice taking on an edge. "I don't think there's anything inconsistent about telling the truth." Diana remained composed. "I'm not questioning your truth. I'm simply asking for clarity. For example, you've spoken about wanting privacy, yet you've also participated in very public interviews and projects. Some viewers find that confusing." The air in the studio shifted. You could feel it. That moment when a conversation starts to turn. "So you're saying I shouldn't tell my story?" Harry's tone was sharper now. "Not at all," Diana said calmly. "I'm saying that people are trying to reconcile different messages." "That's a fair question, isn't it?" Harry sat back, his jaw tight. "You know what? I came here thinking this would be different. I thought you'd actually listen instead of just trying to catch me out." Diana's eyebrows raised slightly, but her voice stayed steady. "Harry, I am listening. I'm asking questions that many people want answered. That's my job." "Your job," Harry repeated, and there was something almost mocking in his voice. "Right, your job is to sit there and make me look bad." The audience was silent now. Absolutely silent. This was not the direction anyone expected. Diana took a breath. "That's not what's happening here. I've been respectful. I've given you space to answer. If you're uncomfortable with the questions, we can move on." "Move on to what?" Harry snapped. "More questions designed to trap me? More ways to twist what I say?" "Harry, I haven't twisted anything," Diana said, and for the first time, you could hear a hint of firmness in her voice. "I've asked straightforward questions." Harry stood up suddenly. Not all the way, but enough to show he was agitated. "You people are all the same. You smile. You act nice. But you're just looking for the next headline." Diana remained seated, her hands folded. "I understand you're upset, but I think we should take a moment here." "I don't need a moment," Harry shot back. "I need someone who actually gets it, who understands what it's like to have everyone picking apart every single thing you do." "I'm trying to understand," Diana said quietly. "That's why I asked the question." Harry laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, you're not. You're doing exactly what everyone else does. You want me to mess up so you can run with it. The producers in the control room were probably panicking. This was live television. This was spiraling. Diana's voice was firm now. Harry, I'm going to ask you to please sit down and let's continue this conversation respectfully. Or we're going to need to take a break. Respectfully? Harry's voice rose. You want to talk about respect? How about respecting that I came here in good faith? And I welcomed you in good faith, Diana replied, her composure impressive. But you're not responding to questions. You're reacting. Because your questions are loaded, Harry said, his hands gesturing sharply. Every single one of them. The audience was watching this unfold like a car crash. Uncomfortable. Shocking. Impossible to look away from. Diana stood up now too. Not aggressive, but authoritative. Harry, I've conducted thousands of interviews. I know the difference between a fair question and a loaded one. What I asked you was fair. According to you, Harry said. According to journalism standards, Diana countered. According to basic conversation. Harry shook his head. This is unbelievable. You invite me here, you act like you want to hear my side, and then you do this. Do what, exactly? Diana asked, and her patience was clearly wearing thin. Ask you to explain your own statements? That's not an attack, Harry. That's an interview. It's a setup, Harry insisted. It's not, Diana said firmly, and I think you know that. There was a pause, a long, heavy pause, where everyone waited to see what would happen next. Harry's face was flushed. You know what, Diana? I thought you were better than this. I really did. But you're just like the rest of them. Diana's expression hardened. That's unfair, and you know it. Is it? Harry challenged. Is it really? Yes, Diana said simply. It is. Harry looked around the studio, at the cameras, at the audience, at the crew. I can't do this. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked. No one is attacking you, Diana said, her voice rising slightly for the first time. But if you cannot handle a straightforward question, then perhaps you're right. Perhaps you shouldn't be here. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Harry stared at her. What did you just say? Diana didn't back down. You heard me. I have been nothing but professional. I have given you every opportunity to share your perspective, but you've turned this into something it's not. I've turned it? Harry's voice was incredulous. You're the one grilling me. I asked you one question about consistency, Diana said, her tone sharp now. One. And you've spent the last several minutes accusing me of setting you up, of being like everyone else, of attacking you. That's not what happened here, and you know it. Harry's face was red now. I don't have to take this. You're absolutely right, Diana said. You don't. Another pause. Longer this time. Harry looked like he was about to say something, then stopped, then started again. You're really going to do this? You're really going to sit there and act like I'm the problem? I'm not acting like anything, Diana said, her voice controlled but firm. I'm telling you that this interview requires mutual respect. I've shown you respect. I'm asking for the same. By questioning everything I say? Harry demanded. By asking you to clarify your own words, Diana corrected. There's a difference. Harry shook his head again, more vigorously this time. No, I'm done with this. I'm done with you. The audience gasped, audibly gasped. Diana's expression remained steady. Harry, I'm going to ask you one more time to please sit down so we can finish this conversation like adults. Like adults? Harry's laugh was bitter. Adults don't ambush each other on television. There was no ambush, Diana said, and now her voice carried real authority. There was a question, a reasonable question, and instead of answering it, you've chosen to make this personal. It is personal, Harry said, Everything is personal when you're me. You wouldn't understand that. You're right, Diana said quietly. I wouldn't understand exactly what it's like to be you, but I do understand what it's like to do my job with integrity. And I've done that here today. Harry was breathing hard now, clearly angry, clearly frustrated. Your integrity. Right. Sure. Diana's jaw tightened. I've been in this business for decades. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, people from every walk of life. I have never, not once, been spoken to the way you're speaking to me right now. Maybe they were all too scared to call you out, Harry shot back. The audience made another collective sound. Shock. Disbelief. Diana took a step forward, not threatening, but assertive. That's enough. That is enough. Or what? Harry challenged. Or I'm going to have to ask you to leave, Diana said, her voice clear and unwavering. Silence. Complete silence. Harry stared at her. You can't be serious. I am completely serious, Diana said. I will not be disrespected in my own studio. I will not allow you to speak to me this way. You can either sit down, compose yourself, and we can try to salvage this conversation, or you can leave. Your choice. Harry's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You're going to kick me out? If that's what it takes, yes, Diana said. The two of them stood there, locked in this moment, this standoff that no one saw coming. Harry's voice dropped, became almost dangerous. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? And there it was, the line that changed everything. Diana's expression shifted. Something flickered across her face. Disappointment, maybe. Or determination. Yes, she said quietly. I know exactly who I'm talking to. The question is, do you know who you're talking to? Harry scoffed. I'm talking to a talk show host who thinks she's more important than she is. The audience made another sound, louder this time. Diana nodded slowly. Okay, we're done here. What? Harry said. We're done, Diana repeated, her voice final. I've given you multiple chances. I've been patient. I've been professional. But I will not stand here and be insulted. I need you to leave. Harry looked genuinely shocked. You're actually doing this. I am, Diana said. Please leave the stage. You can't just kick me off, Harry said. But there was something uncertain in his voice now. I can, Diana said. And I am. This is my show. This is my studio. And I'm asking you to leave. Harry stood there for another moment, looking around as if waiting for someone to intervene. No one did. The crew stood frozen. The audience sat in stunned silence. Even the cameras seemed to hold steady, capturing every second of this unbelievable moment. This is ridiculous, Harry finally said, but he was backing away now. This is absolutely ridiculous. What's ridiculous, Diana said, following him with her eyes, is that you came here, accepted this invitation, and then chose to behave this way. Harry pointed at her. I'll remember this. I'm sure you will, Diana said evenly. Now please, leave. Harry looked at her one more time, his face a mixture of anger and something else. Embarrassment, maybe, or disbelief that this was really happening. Then he turned, ripped off his microphone, and walked off the stage. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the silent studio. Diana stood there, watching him go. When he was finally gone, she turned back to the camera, took a breath, and spoke directly to the viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for what you just witnessed. That was not the conversation I hoped to have. That was not the interview any of us expected. But I want to be very clear about something. She paused, making sure every word landed. I have spent my entire career trying to ask fair questions, to give people a platform to share their stories, to conduct interviews with respect and integrity. What just happened here was not about me failing to do that. What just happened was about one person's inability to handle a simple question. She looked directly into the camera lens. "I don't take pleasure in what occurred, but I will not apologize for maintaining standards. I will not apologize for expecting basic respect. And I will not apologize for doing my job." Another pause. "We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the rest of our program. Thank you for your understanding." The studio lights dimmed slightly as they cut to commercial, but Diana remained standing there, her posture straight, her expression composed. She had just done something that almost never happens in television. She had removed a guest, a royal guest, a famous guest, a guest that millions of people tuned in to see. And she had done it because she refused to be treated with anything less than the respect she deserved. The crew began to move around her, probably asking if she was okay, probably trying to figure out what to do next. But Diana just nodded, collected her notes, and prepared to continue. Because that's what professionals do. They handle the chaos, they maintain their composure, and they move forward. In those studios, behind those cameras, with those lights blazing down, Diana Sawyer had drawn a line. She had shown that no name, no title, no amount of fame gives anyone the right to be disrespectful. She had shown that mutual respect isn't optional, it's required. And Prince Harry? He had walked off that stage, microphone discarded, having turned what could have been a meaningful conversation into one of the most uncomfortable moments in television history. He had come in as a guest and left as someone who couldn't handle the most basic element of an interview, answering questions. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Diana, standing tall, professional, unwavering in her standards. Harry, walking away, unable to manage his emotions, unable to separate a fair question from a personal attack. This wasn't about gotcha journalism. This wasn't about someone being cornered or trapped. This was about what happens when someone expects special treatment simply because of who they are, and what happens when they don't get it. Diana had offered Harry a platform. She had offered him respect. She had offered him the opportunity to share his perspective with millions of viewers. And he had thrown it all away because he couldn't handle being asked to explain his own words. The audience sat there, processing what they had just seen. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked like they couldn't quite believe it had really happened. But they had all witnessed the same thing. A host standing up for herself, for her profession, for basic standards of human decency. In the control room, producers were likely scrambling. This was not in the script. This was not planned. This was pure, unfiltered reality television in the truest sense. Except, it wasn't meant to be. It was supposed to be a serious interview. Instead, it had become a masterclass in how not to conduct yourself as a guest. Diana had given Harry every chance. She had been patient. She had been clear. She had tried to redirect. She had tried to de-escalate. But at a certain point, enough is enough. At a certain point, maintaining your own dignity becomes more important than accommodating someone else's inability to behave appropriately. And that's what made this moment so powerful. It wasn't about drama for drama's sake. It wasn't about creating a viral moment. It was about a woman who had earned her place, earned her reputation, earned her respect over decades of work, refusing to let someone diminish that simply because they were having a bad moment or couldn't handle scrutiny. Harry had accused her of being like everyone else, of setting him up, of attacking him. But anyone watching could see the truth. Diana had asked a legitimate question. One question, about consistency in his public statements. That's not an attack. That's journalism. That's conversation. That's the bare minimum of what an interview should include. His reaction had been disproportionate from the start. His defensiveness had been immediate. His accusations had been unfounded. And his final insult, asking if Diana knew who she was talking to, had revealed everything anyone needed to know about where his head was at. Because in that moment, Harry wasn't thinking about the interview. He wasn't thinking about the audience. He wasn't even thinking about the question. He was thinking about his title, his status, his position. He was thinking that those things should shield him from having to answer questions he found uncomfortable. And Diana had shown him that they don't. That in her studio, under her watch, those things mean nothing if you can't conduct yourself with basic decency. The commercial break must have felt endless. The crew, the audience, Diana herself, all sitting with this bizarre reality that they had just experienced. An interview that had imploded so completely, so quickly, that there was no salvaging it, no going back, no pretending it didn't happen. When the show came back from commercial, Diana continued with grace. She moved on to other segments. She maintained her professionalism, but everyone watching knew. Everyone understood. They had just witnessed something extraordinary. They had witnessed accountability, real accountability, not the performative kind, that happens in carefully crafted statements or managed apologies, but the immediate, uncomfortable, necessary kind that happens when someone crosses a line and faces consequences for it. Diana didn't gloat. She didn't make jokes. She didn't try to spin what happened. She simply acknowledged it, explained her position, and moved forward. That's the mark of true professionalism. Not never having problems, but handling problems with dignity when they arise. And Harry, he had made his choice. He had chosen defensiveness over dialogue. He had chosen accusations over answers. He had chosen to walk away rather than sit with discomfort. And in doing so, he had created a moment that would be talked about, analyzed, and remembered. Not because it was entertaining, though it certainly was dramatic, but because it was real. Because it showed the truth of what happens when entitlement meets accountability. When someone who is used to deference encounters someone who won't give it just because of a title. Diana Sawyer had built her career on asking tough questions, on getting to the heart of matters, on treating her subjects with respect while still maintaining journalistic integrity. She had interviewed people far more powerful than Harry, people with far more to lose, people in far more difficult circumstances, and she had always managed to balance compassion with curiosity, respect with rigor. What happened in that studio wasn't a failure of her approach. It was a testament to it, because she didn't change her standards for anyone. She didn't soften her questions because of who was sitting across from her. She treated Harry the same way she would treat any other guest, with professionalism and the expectation of mutual respect. He couldn't handle it. And that says everything about him and nothing about her. The cameras had captured it all. Every word, every expression, every moment of escalation. And viewers at home had seen what happens when someone tries to use their status as a shield and encounters someone who won't let them. This wasn't about taking sides in family drama. This wasn't about his personal life, or his choices, or his relationships. This was about a simple interaction between a host and a guest, and how quickly it can fall apart when one person refuses to engage honestly and respectfully. Diana had opened the door. She had invited him in. She had offered him the platform, and when he chose to abuse that opportunity, she had shown him the same door he came through. That's not cruel. That's not unfair. That's just maintaining boundaries. Every person watching, whether they sympathized with Harry or not, whether they understood his frustrations or not, could see that Diana had handled herself impeccably. She had stayed calm when he got angry. She had stayed firm when he got accusatory. She had stayed professional when he got personal. And when it became clear that continuing was impossible, she made the tough call. The call that hosts almost never want to make. The call that creates headlines and controversy and endless discussion, but the right call nonetheless. Because some things are more important than a smooth show. Some things are more important than avoiding conflict. Some things, like self-respect and professional standards and basic human dignity, are non-negotiable. Harry had learned that the hard way, in front of millions of people, in a moment he could never take back, in an interview that would define him far more than anything he had hoped to say. He had wanted to control the narrative. Instead, he had lost control of himself. He had wanted to seem reasonable. Instead, he had seemed entitled. He had wanted to appear sympathetic. Instead, he had appeared unable to handle even the gentlest pushback. And Diana? She had remained exactly what she had always been. A consummate professional who knows her worth and won't compromise it for anyone. That's the real story here. Not that a guest walked off. Not that an interview went wrong. But that a woman with decades of experience, with a reputation built on hard work and integrity, stood her ground when someone tried to diminish her. She didn't need to raise her voice to be powerful. She didn't need to match his energy to be effective. She simply needed to be clear about her boundaries and firm about enforcing them. And that's exactly what she did. In the aftermath, as the studio settled and the show concluded and everyone began to process what had happened, one thing was certain. Diana Sawyer had shown exactly why she had earned her place at that desk. Why she had the career she had. Why she commanded the respect she did. Not because she never faced challenges, but because when she did, she handled them with grace, strength, and unwavering professionalism. Even when the cameras were rolling, even when the pressure was on, even when it would have been easier to let something slide or smooth something over. She had made the hard choice, the right choice, the choice that honored her work, her audience, and herself. And that's what real integrity looks like.